Have you ever wondered why some people seem destined for a harder path? Why the ones with the deepest minds and the biggest hearts often feel the most alone? It's not a coincidence. It's not bad luck. It's a pattern, one that repeats in the lives of those who are different, those who are chosen. If you've ever felt misunderstood, isolated, or broken by life, this video will give you the answers you've been searching for. And by the end, you will understand why your struggles are not a curse, but a sign of something greater. Because the truth is, loneliness and pain are not punishments. They are preparations. The weight of being different. There are two types of people in this world. Those who follow the path laid out for them, and those who carve their own. The first group finds comfort in the crowd. They fit in. They move with the flow of life without questioning too much. But the second group, they don't fit in. They don't just accept things as they are. They ask questions others don't. They feel emotions more deeply. They see what others ignore. And because of this, they walk a different road. A road that often feels empty. It's not that they want to be alone. It's that they are wired differently. They crave deeper conversations in a world obsessed with small talk. They seek meaning where others chase distractions. They look for truth when others prefer comfort. And this makes them stand apart. But standing apart comes with a price. Why? Loneliness follows those who are chosen. Society rewards sameness. It values predictability, compliance, and comfort. When someone walks a different path, people don't always admire it. In fact, they resist it. Maybe you felt this before. You share your thoughts and people look at you like you're speaking another language. You try to explain your dreams and they dismiss them as unrealistic. You show your heart and the world doesn't always appreciate it. Over time, this rejection creates a painful realization you are not like them. And that realization is both a blessing and a burden. Because loneliness doesn't come from a lack of people around you. It comes from a lack of connection, from feeling unseen, unheard, unrecognized. You could be in a room full of people and still feel like a stranger. And it makes you wonder, is something wrong with me? The lie society tells you. From the moment we are born, we are fed a lie. The lie that happiness comes from belonging, from being liked, from being accepted by the majority. But look at the greatest minds, the most powerful leaders, the legends who changed history. They were not the ones who fit in. They were the ones who dared to stand alone. The world makes you believe that your loneliness means you are broken, but in reality, it means you are different. And being different is the first sign of greatness. Pain is not a curse, it's a calling. There's a reason why the strongest souls often go through the hardest battles. Pain is a teacher. It strips away illusions. It forces growth. It reveals what is real and what is fake. The chosen ones are tested more because they are meant for more. Life is not trying to break them. It is trying to shape them. Think about the hardest moments in your life. The betrayals, the disappointments, the nights you cried in silence. At the time they felt like the end. But looking back, those were the moments that changed you. They built your strength, your wisdom, your resilience. Without those struggles, you would not be who you are today. Why you must keep going right now. You might feel tired. You might feel like you don't belong anywhere. But hear this, you are not alone in this battle. Many have walked this path before you. Many have felt the same pain, the same loneliness, the same doubts. And every single one of them reached a day when they finally understood their loneliness was never a punishment. It was preparation. Because those who walk alone today will lead tomorrow. The broken will become the strongest. The outsiders will become the ones the world follows. And that's why you must keep going. This journey is not easy, but it has a purpose. And in the end, everything you have endured will make sense. The more you understand, the more alone you feel. This is one of life's harshest truths. There was a time when you could ignore things, when you could blend in, when life felt simpler. But once your mind awakened, everything changed. You started seeing beyond the surface. You noticed the hypocrisy in people's words, the hidden motives behind their actions. You became aware of the illusions society feeds people, the distractions, the lies, the empty pursuits. And that awareness it came with a cost. Why awareness feels like a curse. Most people don't think deeply. They live on autopilot, following routines, absorbing whatever they are told, never questioning why. They avoid hard truths because facing them is uncomfortable. But you couldn't ignore them. You saw how the world conditions people to chase approval instead of purpose. You realize that most conversations are meaningless, just noise to fill the silence. You understood that happiness isn't found in external things, but in something deeper, something most people never seek. And because of this, you started feeling disconnected. You struggled to relate to others. You found it harder to pretend. While everyone else was satisfied with surface-level existence, you wanted more. But the more you searched for meaning, the lonelier you became. The isolation of seeing too much ignorance is comfortable. That's why people cling to it. They don't want to face reality, so when someone like you comes along, someone who questions, who challenges, who refuses to accept things blindly, they push back. They call you difficult. They say you think too much. They act as if something is wrong with you, when in reality something is wrong with the world. The truth is, people fear those who see too much. Because once you wake up, you can't go back to sleep. And that makes you different. That makes you rare. It also makes you lonely. But what if loneliness was never meant to break you? What if it was meant to transform you? Being different is not a choice. It is something you are born with. You think differently, feel deeply, and see the world through a lens that others cannot understand. And because of this, you often feel like an outsider, standing in a world that doesn't reflect who you are. At first, you try to blend in. You laugh at the same jokes, engage in the same conversations, pretend that the things others value also matter to you. But deep inside, you know the truth. You are not like them. The way they think, the way they live, the way they accept things without question, it doesn't sit right with you. And eventually, pretending becomes exhausting. Why? Being different pushes people away. People are drawn to what is familiar. They feel comfortable around those who think like them, act like them, and validate their beliefs. When you step outside of that, you disrupt their reality. Maybe you've noticed it. When you speak about deeper things, people change the subject. When you refuse to follow the crowd, they question you. When you start growing, some of them distance themselves from you. It's not because you are wrong, it's because you remind them of what they are not. Your ambition makes them question their complacency. Your wisdom makes them aware of their ignorance. Your courage exposes their fears. Instead of rising with you, most will choose to step away, not because they hate you, but because they are not ready to see what you see. The pain of walking alone. This is where the pain comes in. Watching people drift away. Realizing that no matter how much you try, you will always feel a little different. That no matter how many people surround you, only a few will truly understand you. But what if this isolation was never meant to hurt you? What if it was a sign that you were never meant to walk the ordinary path? Because the ones who are different, the ones who are rejected, doubted, and misunderstood, are often the ones who change the world. Pain changes you. It strips away everything false and leaves only the truth. It forces you to see life as it really is, not as you wish it to be. At first you resist it. You ask, why me? Why does life have to be this hard? But over time you begin to understand. Pain is not here to punish you. It is here to shape you. Why pain comes to the chosen ones. Look at the strongest, wisest, and most resilient people in history. They did not become that way through comfort. They became that way through struggle. Pain has a purpose. It forces growth. It removes illusions. It teaches you lessons that nothing else can. And the ones who are chosen, the ones destined for something greater, always seem to carry more of it. Because to lead, you must first endure. To rise, you must first be broken. To gain wisdom, you must first survive the darkness. The world does not hand strength to people. It forges it in fire. The breaking point that changes everything. There is a moment in life where pain pushes you to your limit. The moment when you feel like you have nothing left, when everything inside you screams to give up. This is the moment that defines you. Most people break under it. They let pain destroy them. They become bitter, hopeless, and lost. But the chosen ones, they use it. They take the betrayal, the rejection, the suffering, and they turn it into power. They rise not despite their pain, but because of it. Because once you have walked through fire, you fear nothing. Once you have lost everything, you become unstoppable. Once you have suffered deeply, you understand life in a way most never will. Pain is not the end. It is the beginning. The breaking of who you were so you can become who you were meant to be. One of the hardest truths in life is this. The people you love the most are often the ones who hurt you the deepest. You give your heart, your trust, your loyalty, only to be betrayed. You stand by people when they are at their lowest, but when it's your turn to fall, they are nowhere to be found. The ones you thought would always be there become strangers. The ones you sacrificed for leave without looking back. And it makes you wonder, why does this keep happening to me? Why chosen ones face more betrayal? People betray you not because you are weak, but because you are strong. They take advantage of your kindness because they think it has no limits. They mistake your loyalty for something they can use. But the truth is, not everyone is meant to stay in your life. Some people come into your journey only to teach you a lesson, to show you the difference between real and fake, between temporary and permanent. The betrayal that broke you was not an accident. It was a lesson disguised as pain. Because sometimes you need to lose people to find yourself. Abandonment as a blessing in disguise. It hurts when people leave. When the ones you trusted the most turn their backs on you. But over time, you start to see something strange. Every time someone walked away, you grew. The betrayal forced you to rely on yourself. The abandonment pushed you to discover your own strength. The loneliness led you to a deeper understanding of who you are. And one day, you realize, those who left were never meant to be part of your future. They were only part of your past. The ones who truly belong in your life will never need to be forced to stay. And those who walk away, let them, because their absence is making space for something greater. After enough betrayal, after enough loneliness, a dangerous thought begins to creep in. Maybe I'm the problem. You start questioning yourself. You wonder if you are too much, too intense, too deep, too different. You look around and see people fitting in, living without questioning, moving through life with ease, and yet here you are, struggling, overthinking, feeling out of place. It makes you doubt everything. But here's the truth. The problem was never you. The problem was the world's inability to understand you. Why the world makes you doubt yourself. From the moment you were born, you were told to conform, to be like everyone else, to follow the rules, to think the same way, to act within the limits society has created. But you couldn't. You saw things differently. You felt things deeply. You questioned everything. And instead of embracing your uniqueness, the world made you feel like an outsider. It made you believe that your differences were flaws, that your depth was a burden. But here's what they never tell you. Every great mind, every leader, every person who changed the world once felt exactly like you do now. They too were told they were wrong. They too were misunderstood. They too battled self-doubt. Turning doubt into power, doubt can either destroy you or strengthen you. It can make you shrink, or it can force you to rise. The only difference is how you choose to see yourself. You are not too much. You are exactly as you were meant to be. Your thoughts, your emotions, your perspective, they are gifts, not curses. The world may not recognize your value yet, but that doesn't mean you are worthless. Some of the brightest stars take the longest to be seen. So stop questioning your worth. Stop believing the lie that you need to be like everyone else. You were not meant to fit in. You were meant to stand out. There comes a moment when you stop chasing people. when you stop begging for understanding, when you realize that solitude is not a punishment, it is a path to power. At first, being alone feels heavy. You long for connection, for someone who truly understands you. But over time, something shifts. The silence that once felt like isolation begins to feel like freedom. The loneliness that once hurt you begins to heal you, because solitude is not emptiness. It is space. Space to grow, to reflect, to transform. Why the chosen ones walk alone. Great minds, deep thinkers, and powerful souls often walk alone. Deep, 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 longingless, and longing fulfilled. Poor minds are kind, not because they want to, but because their journey demands it. When you step outside the ordinary, you lose the comfort of the crowd. You no longer seek approval, validation, or permission. And that makes you different. It sets you apart. But understand this, solitude is where transformation happens. It is in the quiet moments that you discover who you really are. That you break free from the expectations of others. That you start building yourself, not for them, but for you. Turning loneliness into power. Most people fear being alone because they fear facing themselves. But the chosen ones, they embrace it. Because solitude is where strength is built. It is where focus sharpens. It is where vision becomes clear. The strongest warriors are not made in battle, they are made in isolation. The greatest minds do not rise in noise, they rise in silence. The deepest souls are not shaped by the world, they are shaped by their time away from it. So if you feel alone, do not fear it. Use it. Let solitude be your training ground. Let it refine you. Let it prepare you for what is coming, because when the time is right, you will emerge not as who you were, but as who you were meant to be. Suffering feels like a curse when you are in the middle of it. It weighs on your heart, it drains your energy, and it makes you question everything. You ask, why do I have to go through this? Why does life seem so much harder for me than for others? But what if suffering was never meant to destroy you? What if it was meant to awaken you? Why the chosen ones suffer more pain visits everyone, but for some it lingers longer. The chosen ones are tested more, broken more, challenged more. Not because life is unfair, but because they are meant to handle more. Think about it. The strongest people you know didn't get that way through comfort. They were built through struggle. They endured loss, heartbreak, and rejection, but instead of letting it crush them, they let it transform them. Suffering forces you to grow. It pushes you beyond your limits. It strips away the weak parts of you and leaves behind only what is unbreakable. The pain you have endured is not random. It is preparation. How to turn suffering into strength. Most people run from pain. They numb it, avoid it, distract themselves from it. But the chosen ones, they face it. They use suffering as fuel. They take the lessons hidden in the pain. They let every hardship carve them into someone wiser, stronger, and more unstoppable. The world tells you that suffering is something to escape. But what if suffering was actually the tool that life uses to shape you? Because once you have endured the worst, nothing can shake you. Once you have survived what was meant to break you, you become unstoppable. Your suffering is not the end of your story. It is the fire that will forge you into the person you were always meant to be. There comes a moment in life when everything shifts. When you no longer see the world the same way, when the illusions break and the truth stands before you, raw and undeniable. This is the awakening. It doesn't happen suddenly. It happens after years of struggle, after nights of questioning, after moments of pain so deep that you are forced to see beyond what you once believed. And once you wake up, there is no going back. Why awakening feels like loss. When you awaken, you don't just gain knowledge. You lose things. You lose false beliefs. You lose fake relationships. You lose the version of yourself that once needed validation. It feels like everything is falling apart, but in reality, everything false is being stripped away to make room for something real. You start seeing the patterns in life. You recognize the cycles of pain, the distractions, the traps that keep people stuck. You realize that most people live in fear. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of standing alone. But you no longer fear the truth. What happens when you fully awaken? At first, awakening makes you feel disconnected. The things that once entertained you feel meaningless. The conversations that once excited you feel shallow. The life you once wanted no longer fits who you are becoming. But then something incredible happens. You stop chasing approval. You stop fearing solitude. You stop needing permission to be who you truly are. And in that moment, you realize awakening was never about losing yourself. It was about finding yourself. Not the version shaped by society, not the version shaped by fear, but the real, raw, powerful version of you that was always there waiting to rise. And that is the moment everything changes, because once you wake up, you stop surviving and start living. There comes a point when the old version of you no longer fits. The person who once needed acceptance, who once feared standing alone, who once doubted their own worth, that version of you begins to fade. And in its place, something new is born. This is the rebirth. The moment you step into your true power. The moment you stop being controlled by fear, by rejection, by the opinions of those who never understood you. It is not an easy process. Rebirth feels like destruction at first, because to become who you are meant to be, you must first let go of who you were taught to be. Why the chosen ones must shed their old self. Think about a snake shedding its skin. If it refuses to let go, it cannot grow. It becomes trapped, suffocated by what it has outgrown. The same happens to you. The doubts, the insecurities, the false identities. They no longer serve you. They were placed on you by a world that wanted you to stay small. But you were never meant to be small. You were meant to rise. And that means leaving behind the past version of yourself, even if it feels uncomfortable. The pain of transformation. Most people resist change because it is painful. They would rather stay in familiar misery than step into unknown greatness. But the chosen ones, they embrace the pain because they know that the old self must die for the true self to be born. The pain you are feeling now, it is not punishment. It is transformation. The loneliness, it is not rejection. It is redirection. The struggle, it is not the end. It is the beginning. Because once you shed everything that was holding you back, once you stop fearing who you really are, you become unstoppable. And the world will no longer see you as broken. They will see you as reborn.